want to go back to last week here for a second. We spoke to James Vick earlier, but I think one of the stories of the year, in my opinion, has been, I don't know, I don't want to call it the reemergence. I just feel like, as blunt as can be, I feel like after all these years, and there was a time where he was getting it, but I feel like this year in particular, Trevor Wittman is getting more love and more respect this year than most, and it's long overdue and well-deserved. And I feel, quite frankly, on this program, we need to recognize people like Trevor Wittman a little more. So I reached out to him to have him on the program. Very happy that he said yes, and now he is joining us on the show. Trevor, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing great, and I feel like I almost have to apologize because I feel like I haven't given you the respect and the attention that you deserve. And I feel like the MMA community is giving you more respect and attention after what Rose has been doing. Justin, just a couple of days ago in Lincoln, Nebraska. I feel like you're finally getting that attention, and you got that attention back in the day. You had Shane Carwin, you had Marquardt, you had a lot of big names. But I feel like this year in particular, people are starting to finally say, like, Trevor Wittman is one of the elite coaches in this game. You don't strike me as one of those people who actually pays attention to this or even cares about this. But have you noticed this as well, that you're starting to finally get a little more of that love?
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the nail. I'm underneath the rock, dude. I don't do this for myself. The whole thing, being with athletes it's being a great coach. You have to be selfless, and the athletes have to be selfish, and that is key. It's not about me; it's about them, and I just get to ride co-pilot and then enjoy the process.
This is where I feel like it started. Not so much Rose's win in Brooklyn, not so much her win in Madison Square Garden back in November. But you weren't a part of UFC 224, to the best of my knowledge. You weren't in Rio for that card, right?
Which card was that?
That was the one in May in Rio de Janeiro, headlined by Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. I don't think that you were part of it. However, you were the big talking point afterwards, because if you may recall, Raquel asked out of that fight, and her coaches said, no, you're staying. And this video of you talking to Nate Marquardt, I believe at UFC 188, emerged. You speaking to him saying he was done, and you saying, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with this, I'm going to wave this off. And a lot of people looked at that video as to how a coach should talk to a fighter when he is on the ropes, so to speak, when he is on the verge of quitting. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame. And I wanted to get your take, if you will, on the Raquel Pennington situation. Did you see that exchange? Did you think about your exchange with Nate Marquardt? Why does it seem to be so taboo in MMA to quote-unquote throw in the towel?
I would say in their fight, the hard part is the championship fight. There's so much on the line. Is she going to get a chance again? And the hard part is when you stop a fight, that fighter doesn't make their win money. And you'll hear almost every fighter say, I don't care what's happening, never stop the fight. And I hear that from all my athletes. The situation with Nate was there was something going on with his posture, and I don't know if he got hit with a body shot, but I tried to stop the fight. I went up on the canvas or on the little deck outside, and then the guy who was heading our corner from the commission in Mexico pulled me down and said, you can't stop the fight. Only the doctor or the referee can stop the fight. So I started looking for the doctor at the moment and couldn't find out where he was. So I went back and continued to coach Nate. And then when I went up into the cage, I looked at him and I whispered to him. I said, did you get hit with a body shot? And he said, no. And he goes, man, I just have nothing left. And once he said he had nothing left, I looked over, I believe it was Big John, and said, hey, John, stop the fight. And he stopped the fight. But the key here is when you stop a fight for an athlete, everything's on the line. Your relationship, how are they going to handle that type of a scenario? And in my heart, I had that because I was nervous to stop Nate's fight, but I didn't care about that. It wasn't about me. I had stopped Vernal Phillips against Paul Williams for the WBO, probably back in 2005. And that was our last fight where I had 15 fights with Vernal Phillips. And I ended up not getting my full purse money. And we lost a relationship because I stopped the fight. So that's always on the line. And as a coach, that's always in your head. But the key is, again, if you can pull someone out from taking too much damage, for me, they can ride the money train longer. And a lot of times that the damaging fights where they're not responsive and there's not a chance to win, you have to step up and protect them. That's your job.
I'm happy you brought up the pay because I do believe one of the big factors as to why we don't see this in MMA is because they only get half of their pay when they step in the cage, as opposed to in boxing when you have a sort of flat fee. Here, you could do a Hail Mary. I mean, someone you know very well, Pat Barry, Czech Congo, Hail Mary type of finish. You are never out, or at least most fighters think that they're never out, and that's a massive burden on the coach because a fighter may get mad at you and said, I could have stop the guy or the female. Do you think about that as well? Because people, when I said this
Completely.
in May, you do think about that. Okay, thank you, Trevor. I appreciate it. Because
no, that's key. That's this sport has so many ways. There's so many ways to finish a fight, and fights will be going one way for the whole fight, and all of a sudden, boom, the other guy finishes the fight when you thought it was no way of happening. And that is super, super important. But again, the key to the fight with Nate, there was something going on where he just wasn't there. And again, one of the things I noticed, especially from boxing, because there's lots of deaths in boxing compared to MMA, is you start to see weird postures where it's almost like their body isn't reacting correctly. And that is what I've seen. I deal with Nate all the time, daily, every day, and I've never seen that posture. It's that hunch in the shoulders, almost like he took a body shot. And that was unique. And when I asked him if he took a body shot, I had to stop that fight. I felt like there's no way he's going to come back from that if he's looking that way. It was something unique about the way he was moving around.
How many years have you been coaching for?
I started coaching in 1996.
Okay, so 22 years, if my math is correct. How many times do you think that you stopped a fight early?
So I have one time where Manuel Lopez, one of my boxers, this is another thing that was a very serious thing in my life because, I never want to have a fighter injured in a fight that's a serious injury. And Manuel Lopez was fighting a Spanish fighter, and we were on the Casamayor Corrales card, and we were fighting for a WBC title. And it's about the seventh round. I was going to stop the fight, and then Chris Morris, one of my buddies who was sitting next to me, pulls the towel out of my hand. I was going to throw the towel up, and I was going to get up on the canvas. We were like fighting back and forth. And then we let it go on. And then in the 12th round, he wants to stop the fight. And there's like a minute left. And I'm like, if he wants to throw the shit in, and I'm like, no way, you ain't going to stop it with 30 seconds left. Are you crazy? And then he ended up having a pneumophomatic or something like that as a punctured lung.
Wow.
And we ended up going into the hospital. He ended up exiting out of the hospital, which the doctors said, you can't do that. You can't go on a flight. He just wanted to see his newborn son. And they told us the risk. They said he's pretty much signing away on his life when we left the hospital, and I tried to talk him out of it. So I was just trying to be funny with him the whole time on the airplane. But I had Dr. Pressmack set up for us to go straight off the airplane into the other hospital, but we couldn't turn him away from that. And that was one of the hardest parts of my career. I actually missed Nate's fight, the only fight I missed, and he broke his hand in there, and I usually wrap their hands, so that hurt me. But I stayed in the hospital for a week with Manny Lopez, or not Lopez, Perez. And that hurt me. I was in control of that. Me not making that decision to do it in the 7th round killed me. And I felt like I could have allowed someone to really get injured. So experience is everything, and how you handle the experience is everything. And you don't know what you don't know. So that was a key component that really helped me understand the damage an athlete can take through the courage and heart that these athletes have.
Transitioning to Justin Gaethje, I could talk about that. The psychology is fascinating to me about when to stop, how to stop, the relationship afterwards, if it affects the relationship, whether they fully trust. It's just fascinating stuff. But I want to ask you about Justin Gaethje as well, because he is coming off that big win. And I remember back in April, after the loss to Poirier, people thought, all right, Gaethje is who he is right now. He is not going to evolve. He's that sort of reckless fighter who is a ton of fun to watch, but he's going to get hit a lot, and maybe this style is just catching up to him. Did you work on changing? I mean, obviously the performance against Vic was near flawless. Did you work on changing him? Is he a different fighter now? Is he more patient? How did you go from the guy who was taking those punches against Poirier and Alvarez to what we saw, 9 or so days ago in Lincoln?
I would say the biggest difference is Justin. Justin's becoming wiser, and with age, you become wiser. He just has so much fun in there, and he's a sharp defensive fighter. He's a very guy who knows how to roll with the punch and come back with a punch. But he just has so much fun in there, and almost every time he's in a fight, he sits down on the stool and says, "Coach, this guy hits nothing like Palomino." He said that a few times to me, and he's just having so much fun in there. The key now is his sense of understanding that Gaethje is to me, will be great if he's a spot fighter, if he fights in spots. He's the best at pressuring people and making people move their feet backwards and away from him. But he's got to find the right time to bring his combinations and his fighting style. It's got to be in spots, because when he fights just so hard, yes, he breaks them mentally, but he also gets lazy. And, just like the kick that he threw on Poirier, where he threw the kick, nice hard kick, but then he relaxed. He sat back on his heels, and Dustin did a great job of catching that. And if Gaethje's sharp and he's balanced all the time, like the one thing in the Vic fight was his range. He outranged Vic, which was great. His little reset of his feet every time, it made Vic go, holy cow, I can't just touch this guy from long range. But he knew when to scoot his feet in. And my favorite part was he didn't lead with his punch, meaning that if you lead with your punch, you lead with your head. He got his feet in there first. He used the left hook to get his lead foot in and then set through the cross, which showed the leverage that Gaethje really has.
My favorite part of the fight, and it wasn't the fight itself, and I hope I'm not insulting anyone by saying this, was the footage that came out afterwards of your reaction. Your entire corner jumps up when he knocks out Vic, and you almost look like, another day at the office, and it seemed like you were a little bit concerned for Vic. It's amazing footage. Have you seen this?
Yes, I did see that, yeah.
What is going through your mind as this is happening? How are you not, exploding like everyone else?
Because it is what it is. It's I'm excited. I'm happy. Celebration is on the mind at the time, but someone just got KO'd very bad, and I could see the way he went down on his head was an issue. And then all of a sudden, too, is one thing that I've noticed. It's the hardest part for me to deal with when my athlete loses is the families that are there. It's hard, when you're watching your son or your cousin or even your supporters who know you from teaching kickboxing classes. Your supporters are there watching. So as I'm excited, I'm also humbled by what is going on in that situation. And the main thing I want to do is make sure that they're all right. And then I like to celebrate behind doors, and I think the athletes should be instantly joyed. I believe that the families should be overjoyed and celebrating. But for me, man, it's peaks and valleys. If I'm getting super excited about a win, I'm going to get super, super down about a loss. But I know what, like, for instance, Vic, what he's going through at the moment, going in there talking a lot of stuff and then, cause and reaction. How is he going to deal with this at the moment? Is it going to change his life? Is he going to downfall from this point, or is he going to grow from it? I don't know. But just that time and that moment is so beneficial for us, but it's also, I respect all athletes and I respect what they do in there. It's humbling. So.
Do you have a preference as to who Justin fights next?
Oh, I don't. That's the one thing that I never do is try to say, hey, this is who we want next. I feel like that's what the UFC has done very good compared to, like, let's say, compared to boxing, where high level guys get to choose who they're fighting, and they can get tune-up fights and these types of things. One thing that makes UFC unique is you fight who's in front of you. And I like that. I like to know that we've got a short period of time to be able to plant seeds of the opponent that we're facing, but how do we grow to handle this type of opposition? I don't care who we fight, really.
Fair enough, and I respect that. We spoke to Rose back in late June. She said that she was dealing with a neck issue. Do you have any update on how she's feeling?
Yeah, it's the one thing with the neck issue is we don't know when it happened, so having a C6 compression fracture is a major deal. And, but she's had these issues with her neck for 2 training camps, both of Joanna's training camps. And, there was no direct time where she was like, oh, I know when this happened. I actually have the exact same compression fracture and I know exactly when I did it, but didn't find out till 2 years later. And the one thing is, man, you get these headaches, especially in the first couple of years after it happens. And she was getting headaches throughout her whole camp that are just, man, they wear you out. They annoy you. They fuck with your mental. And she's kind of just messing with that at the moment and trying to fix that. She's also, dealing with the situation that happened with the bus. And, everybody has different perspectives of what's going on. I wasn't on the bus. I actually joked with her when they came back because I thought it was nothing serious. I was joking about it. She started crying and just bawling. I was like, oh my God, what really happened? And they were like, man, when the windows broke, it almost sounded like gunshots. And Rose comes from an abusive background. And that type of scenario, the one thing is I feel like Rose is one of the most mentally strong people I've ever worked with. But she's also true to her senses and what she's feeling. That's why I enjoy coaching her. And she fears fighting more than anybody. She cries the day we're fighting when we're about to walk out. She deals with this. But the way she faces it when she's in the moment, she's wonderful. But the hard part with her is she's always eating herself up mentally. And that's, I think right now she's dealing with that. And a lot of people laugh at it and say, oh, it's just this, it's just that. I mean, all I can say is you can't really say how it was unless you were there. And then also what perspective are you coming from? What traumatic situations does that bring up? So I think she needs the time off. She's had a lot of pressure fights that were close together. So I think you can see her back at the beginning of the year. And I look forward to helping her overcome that.
So do you feel like the almost like the PTSD of the bus incident is still weighing on her?
Oh, yeah, completely. She doesn't leave her house.
Still?
I mean, she goes and does the media. Oh, yeah, she's like if you just bring the subject up, it's the promotion. The promotion of showing that bus isn't it for promoting the show that's coming up. Yeah, it's great promotion, sells tickets, but, I mean, it bothers me just on how much it bothers her. I mean, it instantly brings it up. We're visual people, and then when it brings up pictures of that same scenario, it was crazy. When that situation happened, I'd never heard her play the piano before. We went down to the lobby, and we were walking to just go take a walk, and she was seeming super down. She got in this piano, pulled the curtain off, and just started playing the piano. I never heard her play the piano. And it was one of the coolest, music brings vibration. It just makes you, dude, the way she was playing this piano, I could not believe how talented she was and what a release that was for her. I feel like that piano was the key to her going into that fight mentally strong because it instantly helped her through that scenario. But, again, it's still there. Like, I was so worried about how she was going to perform in that fight. I really was.
Did you want her to pull out?
No, I want people to face their fears.
Wow.
No, that's I would, if she said she had to pull out, I would back her. But no, I wasn't going to plant a seed. I wasn't going to bring it up. I was going to, do my job, and my job is there to help her perform, help her be mentally stable. But I'm not going to be a part of distraction, and I do not want to plant a negative seed prior to a fight. Afterwards, we talked about it, but I didn't want to talk about it unless she needed to.
Do you feel like it's in poor taste to be using this to promote the fight?
Oh, yeah, it bothered me. I actually wrote something. I actually posted it and pulled it right back down. I was super bothered.
Wow.
For me, there's so many things that go into that scenario that you can get away with. And, the things of, hey, how do you become more famous or make more money off a crazy situation like that? And the ones who were involved, from Ray Borg having glass in the eye. And, I know a lot of people were like, oh, man, it was an easy way for you to pull out. Again, he lost money. Michael, I can't ever say his name, Chesnia.
Chiesa.
He was on there. He would have had an opportunity to fight for the title. I mean, there's so many things that happened in that scenario. And from the WWE side, yeah, it could look like it's set up and that type of thing. That was a real situation. And the ones who were involved, I think it's a poor taste of promotion, but it is what it is. That's what they're great at. UFC is a promotional company, and I respect it from business ethics.
Are you worried that this is going to linger and continue to bother her?
Oh, yeah. But, again, the one thing is I look at everything as balance. Everybody has been through a traumatic thing, whether it's a death in a family, abuse, bullying. Everybody has faced some type of traumatic scenario. And the key is those are the things that you can either carry you down and weigh you down and break you down, or those are the things that will make you better and greater in life if you face it. If you see the image and you run from it, and it takes a time process, you can't just instantly change that. You can't come back from rape and then a week later be good from it. It takes a process, and you almost have to reboot your system and work yourself through that. But the more you go through those types of things, you become callous to it. And I believe traumatic situations, if you learn how to look at it and respect them, then you can go on and be stronger and be aware.
So is she not at the gym?
Oh, yeah, she trains all the time.
But you said that she doesn't leave her home.
No, she leaves the gym is a mile away from her house.
Okay, so that's as.
And let me phrase that differently. It doesn't mean that she doesn't leave her. She'll go out and do a hike where there's no people.
Okay.
You know, she's not going to be afraid of a bear running up on her. She doesn't go in public places.
Oh.
You know, when you're in a public place and there's people everywhere, you're going to be like, oh my God, what can happen here? You know, it's like if you're involved in the 9/11 bombings, it's very hard to be in a city scenario. Every time you get on an elevator, you're going to think of it, especially if you were up in the floors. And again, that's what she means, is being around the fight scene. They said our security was going to be better. We're still riding the same shuttles. You know, I mean, it is what it is. So that's something that she's going to have to deal with, and I know she'll overcome it. But it's just time. I think she needed time to get away from that chaos 2 times in New York. You know, New York's awesome. You're in New York right now, so
yes.
if you grew up and live in New York, you know how to deal with that. But it's a chaotic situation if you're not used to that deep city scene, that New York state of mind. And by the way, hey, off subject. What kind of shoes you have? I'm actually disappointed I'm not on Skype because you always got them shoes.
Yes, actually, you know what? For the show, I appreciate you noticing that, Trevor. You know,
I always do, right?
Yes, I do appreciate that. I'm wearing these Nike SBs, these Cherry Blossom ones that are a little beat up, but they're actually kind of cool. You can check them out. Nike SB Cherry Blossom. They're a little bit pink, but as you can see, they're a little bit beat up. Well, you can't see this right now. You can see it on the replay. But it is great to have you on the show, Trevor, and I really appreciate the insight. I think that you are one of the finest coaches in the entire sport, and I thought it was really cool that footage of you and Nate Marquardt interacting came up several years later when the whole Raquel Pennington thing came up, and you're having a phenomenal year with Rose and Justin and many others as well. And I know that you're coming out with this, or you have already come out with this line of training gear, right? With Justin.
Yes.
What's it called? Onyx, correct?
Onyx Sports, yes. ONX Sports.
Amazing. Well, he spoke very highly of it last week on the program. I wish you the best of that. Of course, I wish you the best with all your fighters. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for being such a great sport and such a great coach in doing things the right way. I really admire what you've been doing as of late. So I won't take so long to have you back on the program again, but I just wanted to have you on to talk about all those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, buddy.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, Trevor Wittman, stopping by. In my opinion, one of the very best in the game. Grudge Training Center is the gym that he trains out of. He trains fighters out of in Colorado. And Justin Gaethje and Rose Namajunas are probably at the top of his list, but he's got some other great ones as well. And he's been doing this for quite some time. Pat Barry, been a part of his stable. Shane Carwin, Nate Marquardt, as I said. For a while, there was, sort of a sister thing going on with Jackson Wink. And so guys like Rashad Evans and George St. Pierre were working with him as well. Roy Nelson, Matt Mitrione, Cerrone, Todd Duffy, Melvin Gillard. The list goes on and on. So great stuff there from Trevor Wittman. And, it's heartbreaking to hear what Rose is going through. And I know a lot of people will roll their eyes and say, oh, get over it. But that is a real thing. And I hope that people can respect that.